So, breaking news, I have released my power grades like I'm showing you in this video. If you have not gone over to the Blueprint website, please go ahead and go over there and go ahead and get you guys the power grade or the LUT, whichever one. If you're in Premiere and Final Cut, go ahead and go get the LUT. If you are in DaVinci Resolve, like I am, the best software, go get yourselves a power grade. Anyways, we'll get back to the video right now. Today, I'm going to be breaking down how I color grade. Don't mind the mess in the back. This is a very raw video, but we're gonna make sure that you understand what it is like to color grade. All right, so here we're gonna take you into the timeline on DaVinci Resolve. So this is a documentary that I'm editing and full-time colorist on. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to find our hero scene, our hero shot, whichever it is. Sometimes it can be, I wanna pick something with a lot of dynamic range for you guys, but we can pick something over here like Jeremiah Fear. So we use the do lenses here. So what we're gonna do is actually we're gonna reset this grade. This is graded by the editor, but we're gonna reset it. Sorry, Bara, but here we go. We're gonna start this over. So as you can see, this is our initial image. We're just gonna go through and just readjust all of these, honestly. I'm gonna turn these back into boring grades. So what we're gonna do, let me make sure I'm still recording. Yep. So what we're gonna do is first find our hero scene. We'll start here. We were using the Aural primes here, and we're gonna utilize my new Blueprint power grade, which is also gonna be in the description below. We have two versions, one version with all of my fancy plugins that I use, and then a version not needing those expensive plugins that I use. But we'll just go through this and I'll go and show you guys exactly how I utilize the Blueprint plugin. So obviously, as you can see, the image here is dark. What we wanna make sure though, is that the first thing that we do, so if we took all these off, we just wanna make sure one of the main things is already set in stone. So I have this export grade right here, which is a gamma compensation LUT. You can get it from Sony, you can get it from pretty much anywhere, but it's already included in the file folder for you guys and a tutorial on how to set it up. But I'm gonna go through how I personally color grade. So anyways, the first thing that I start off with is the look adjustment. Honestly, with the look adjustment, you pretty much get exactly where you wanna be pretty quickly. This is with the LUT that we have, which is gonna be a teal and orange. It's also included in that folder, but what I do is I'll usually just go in here and I will grab the teal and orange, which is already applied here. You also guys have my LUTs, my new LUT pack, which has each of these golden hour, daylight, all those types of things. For a room like this, honestly, I do kind of like what this teal and orange is already doing. So what we're gonna mainly do first is we're gonna go into our exposure and contrast. This is where we're gonna start. So I'm gonna reset this so you can just see what it does. But the first thing that we're gonna do is go into our exposure and contrast. We're gonna click these three dots. I'm actually gonna turn off these, the timeline display. You guys do not need to see the timeline display. We're gonna go in here, we're gonna click on the three dots, and when we click on the three dots, we're gonna get something called Editable Splines. We're gonna click that, and right here, as you can see, I can manage all highlights. A better way to see it is by going to your waveform, and in your waveform, you can see exactly what this is doing. You bring it all the way down, you crush your blacks, bring it all the way up, you can crush your highlights, and that's what's good about working with cameras with high dynamic range. You have a lot of room to work with. Obviously, with the new Sony FX5, people are gonna have a lot of fun with this right here. And so what I like to do is really just look at the details. If you go and look, I just don't want anything crushed. If you look at the highlights, you just don't really want to have anything crushed because you want to retain details of stuff like, for example, in his face right here. So what we're gonna do is actually, we're gonna put this back out like this. We're now gonna crush some shadows. We don't wanna see all this reflective stuff back here. We wanna make sure that it has that quote unquote cinematic feel. As we scrub through, you can see we kind of like skin tones where they're at, TBH. And we're at a pretty good spot here. What I usually do is I'll go through the contrast because sometimes I don't really like how contrasty it is. I like to soften up my images a lot, especially because I add grain at the end. And then if I go to my HDR exposures, this is just kind of how I raise the gain. So by no means is this like actually, like it's just raising gain of how much you want stuff to go, but it's just dialing it in just that slightest bit more. I know if I do this, you'll see a lot more of the contrast. So what I did was, if you go to this node and we go and open it up here, you can see that I brought the contrast down and I brought over the pivot, just because I understand that like if we go too crunched, it's like he's baked, like the old memes. Anyways, if you bring us alongside the pivot, you can see what that does for the image. I'm just gonna adjust it back to where I was at, which is 3.3. Now we're gonna go in here and we are going to go back. And then the next thing that we do, and I just want you guys to just copy this for me, is the tone. I usually use this for every single thing. If you guys want to take a screenshot of it, this is literally how I do it. I go find the midtones and I bring them down. That's literally all I do. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is our HDR tones. That's where you're going to go in here and you can move. I usually move my global, or I move my shadow colors. That's usually when I'm working in this. So you can see what it does already. It takes it from that warmer tone over to a little bit of a cooler tone, just so that we can make sure when we look into our vector scope, we're at least on the skin tone line somewhat, and in one of the scopes down here. Obviously we're going to be in the greens because of this, but if you take away the greens and just look at Jeremiah Fears here, you'll see you got the teal and orange-ish kind of look. But if we want to lock that in even more, we're going to hop into our color correction. So in our color correction, this is where I'm going to do my white balance. Now, shout out to my boy Paolo. He showed me this before, and this is how he adjusts his temperature. Honestly, I enjoy adjusting temperature this way because it doesn't crush everything. You can obviously go here and go to your white balance and obviously adjust the temp that way, but I feel like I have a lot more control using chromatic adaptation. So yeah, I'll go here and I'll adjust. If I feel like, okay, he's too blue here, I want the white balance to be pretty even across, I'll adjust the tint, take away some of the pinks from his shirt. Cool, bring that back. And so now we get into look adjustment. This is where things get a little bit more important and a little bit more expensive, right? For our film emulation, we have Dehancer, but we're not gonna go to that just yet. We also have Monolab, which is another expensive plugin. But for this, you might only really just need the LUT and Tetra. Tetra is how we're gonna be able to control a lot of the chroma or the color mixer, what you do with this color mixer here, like the color slice. You can do this here, but I just like how Tetra is because of how simple it is. Red to red is just gonna be your brightness for your colors and obviously your hues. So obviously I can bring it back and make it look like the Hulk, right? And Tetra's really good as far as like the science behind it. So what I want is I want to move him. Another thing that you want to do here is open this, and then you can show your skin tone indicator to see where you're at. This is where the skin tones are at. So what we're gonna do is try and get it as close to that line as possible. So saturation wise, we're at the line, but we're gonna probably want to switch the red and green to move it across. So this is probably where his skin tone is at. Immediately though, I can see the saturation coming in, so we can bring that back down. So this is more close to his real skin tone. So what I'm starting to see after looking at this image for a while is that it's a little bit dark. So what I'm gonna do is go back in here. Probably gonna release some shadows quite a bit, and we're gonna get a good image right there. Another thing that we can do within our look adjustment is then add on these two expensive nodes, and we can go in here and do what film actually is meant to do with our densities. So I can increase the red density, and what that's going to do is just increase the densities in his skin as far as color. You can also do that in the same color slice section if you'd like. Green density is obviously controlling the stuff in the back, as you can see. This is really what gives film character, is the density in colors. It's not the saturation, but it's the density in colors. You can do some cool stuff with Monolab. You can do some split tone effects and stuff like that. I personally don't. You can bleach bypass it like the movies do, like Iron Man and all that type of stuff. But I'm not doing that for this. If we go here to Dehancer, this is where our grain is added. So as you can see, a lot of stuff is emulated film-wise, right? So if we go here and we scroll all the way down to where our film grain is, you can see not enabled, enabled. I personally, for this specific doc, I like to keep my stuff at like 65. Just kind of gives it that Alexa feel-ish. And so now we have our main image right here. So what you want to do here is we can go to the AZ Compass, which we already have our grades here set for AZ Compass. But what we're going to do is actually grab this still. This is going to be so that we can go to our next image and we can match it. So what we can do here is kind of look at it and see, okay, does this match, right? So we'll split this and see. All right, if we look at the colors, they match quite a bit. I feel like there's a tiny bit more contrast just because I was shooting shadow side. But what we can do is just make sure we can split it top down so that we know, okay, our skin tones are the same. All right, so as we can see, there's probably just a tiniest bit of adjustment in the skin tones here on that second one. And that might just be more so an exposure thing. So what we're gonna do is probably just bring down this exposure a tiny bit so it can feel a little bit more even. And I like it, but I would say if I was looking at it, he looks a little tiny bit more orange. So we're gonna go back to our look adjustment, to our Tetra, and we might knock it down just, or boost it up just the slightest, and then shift this closer so that it can match. There we go. So I want to introduce a little bit more pink to the skin. I feel like that's where it would match perfectly. And the cool thing is that your vector scope has both matches on there. And so now I feel like we're at a good spot where these two match very, very well. And so now we can turn that off, and now we have our grade for both. We can just go in to them, apply grade, same here, apply the grade on the rest of the clips. Boom, we got our grade. Grab this right here. And so that's more so of one of the color grades for the Compass dock, and these play back well, especially when you're cutting back between the camera angles. So what we're gonna do now is go to some other footage. I like this. Obviously, if you want to see it before and after, that's before and after. So yes, if this color grade is something that interests you guys, again, the link is in the description below. What I can do is go to, let's go to this. We're working on this right now with Modern Fuel. Actually, I don't think I saved that there. Let's go to color test tutorial and open this up for you guys so you guys can see. We did this the other day on call. Let's let this load a second. This doesn't have to be on, that's fine. There we go. We'll go here. So we have a bunch of different scenarios. So this is us in Paris. This is what the nodes can do. This is off right here. As it loads, let's give it a second. This is off, and then this is on. Same node tree, same process, same everything. As you can see, I think we took off. As you can see, I think I took off a lot of film grain on this one. So what we're gonna go do is like, hey, we want some grain. We'll go in there into our look adjustment. And this is actually with our Pro version. This is gonna be the version that doesn't have all the plugins. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust. So this is a clean slate. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to grain down here. This is within your DaVinci already. We're gonna go 65, which is what I like. I'll bring up the amount a little bit. I'll bring up the size just a tiny bit. And then you'll see that we have our film grain, right? Enable. Film grain just adds a lot of good texture to your images. So like for example, this image right here, it adds a ton of good texture. We go to look adjustment. This one has their Art Pro, but what I would do for more grunge scenes like this, if you're trying to do a lot of those kinetic grunge edits, is I'll go 8mm and look what that grain does. Like it just looks nice. Here, as you can see, same thing here. So we're able to build out images fairly easily, going from this to this. And this is super, super helpful for a lot of you guys that are trying to color grade. get your exposures right so that you can also get your sky that's not blown out. Same with this here, right? Like this image, okay, first thing I see in this image is contrast, like just going, right? So what I'm gonna do is go here to my contrast. I'm just gonna boost it a little bit. So as you see with the contrast going up, the brightness kind of went up. So what we're gonna do is bring down the shadows to give the image exactly what we want it to give. Once we get people in the shot, you'll see, okay, maybe contrast was a little too high. Or we can see, okay, yeah, okay, I don't see any details in my hoodie, so I'll bring this back out a tiny bit. That's fine. The good way to fix this is that you go to your look adjustment, like I said earlier, and you can actually make a node in the end. And just so I can show you guys the way to do it for free, is that you go to your reds and you can adjust them here. So you can bring your hues in your reds. Good, let me. You can change the hues in your reds, so my lips are red. We go skin. DaVinci is really good at seeing skin. You can adjust that there. You can adjust the hue of it, make it as close to that skin tone line as you want. Obviously, I look super yellow here, so we can give you real skin tones. And then we can put in, again, that density that we were talking about earlier. You can bring it up here, and you can take that saturation down. So this is pretty much what Tetra does, just local to DaVinci. And you can do this however you please. And so now I feel like I got some good skin tones, and I got a shot that's just has so much depth in it. Again, if you guys like the power grade, it's down below. Let me know if you guys have any other questions. And if you have any other more specific color grading questions, please let me know. And I will be more than willing to help you guys. So if you guys like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.